We are almost 7 weeks through the fantasy hockey season. There's no better time to make ads to prepare yourself for the next week than late in week 6. So in this video, I'm going to be breaking down the schedule for week 7, some of my favorite streamer ads, and then the meat and potatoes of this video, going into my 8 favorite must-add players for the long-term value. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. I think this might be one of the first weeks of the year since I took over doing the must-add videos that we actually have 3 teams with 4 games and 4 off-night games. So Boston, Buffalo, and Carolina lead the way with 4 total games this week, all 4 of their games being on the off-night games. Meaning if you're in a pretty competitive league, it's more than likely that a lot of these players will be added. But the good part is that there are a lot of players to choose from these top 3 teams. So my targets here are going to be from these 3 teams. I'm going to be trying to pick and choose my favorite player from each team relative to their ownership percentage on Yahoo, with the hopes that you're able to add 1 or 2 of these guys. This is a really good week to take advantage of because you have a lot of players to choose from, all with very, very strong schedules going into week 7. So these are my 6 favorite streamers going into week 7. I always try and pick and choose guys that have power play 1 or top 6 opportunities, but that have also been pretty good over the last couple of weeks. So starting off with the highest ownership percentage player, Pavel Zacha of the Boston Bruins, with center left wing eligibility, who is on the top line. He is skating on the top power play unit, has been very strong over the last couple of weeks. The Boston Bruins team in general has been really good. We're on a 7-game win streak right now, and hopefully they can continue it, or do continue when this video gets posted. Zacha's ownership percentage is pretty high, so he's more of a shallower league type of ad. But if he is available, this would be definitely my highest priority ad. The highest minutes of most of these players on this list, and the most upside skating line 1 power play 1. Josh Doan and Jack Quinn both are on the top power play unit at this moment for the Buffalo Sabres. Doan has a considerably higher floor, very good shot volume, but I do like the upside of his minutes, his goal scoring upside, and he has the left wing, right wing eligibility. So at 10% roster, Doan should be available in those 12 plus team leagues. I do own him in one of my leagues, and I've continued to hold him. So it's looking good for those who own a little bit of Buffalo players on their roster right now, because you're able to have these guys that have really strong schedules going into this week. With Jack Quinn, he's not as juicy as Josh Doan is in terms of the peripherals, but still has that power play 1 upside. You see me smiling because I said the word juicy. That is why. But Jack Quinn here, not as much peripheral upside, so the floor isn't there, but the upside is still going to be there with him skating on the top power play unit. Victor Arvidsson has been doing Victor Arvidsson things. He's shooting like crazy, up to 48 shots on the season at the time of recording. He's just 3% rostered, and if you can't get to any of the first 3 guys, definitely take a look at grabbing Victor Arvidsson, who has a very, very high floor with his great shot volume. Historically, that's exactly what Arvidsson has been, just a high shot volume goal scoring forward. I like the upside here, left wing, right wing eligible, so you have a lot of flexibility with him over Jack Quinn. I would maybe even place him a tier above Jack Quinn, very close between the two, but I love the upside from Arvidsson this week. Again, 4 games on the off nights. So Carolina doesn't have a whole lot of players that are super, super interesting. They spread their minutes out quite a bit. And then their power play has been set for quite a while. But with Stankoven here, probably my favorite player that should be available on your waiver wire. Center right wing eligible, just 29% rostered. So maybe in those 12-team leagues, he may not be available. But if he is, take a look at Logan Stankoven. Not the highest upside and the highest floor in terms of peripherals, but strong schedule, should be getting around 15 minutes per night and high offensive opportunities. I like the upside with Stankoven. I just wish we saw a little bit more from him this season. But still, 29% rostered, that dual position eligibility, center right wing, so a little bit different than the other players on this list, because you're able to play him at center or right wing, where most of the other players are right left wing or center left wing. Lastly, Jackson Blake of the Carolina Hurricanes. I had a lot of interest of him when he was on power play 1, but they've actually returned Svechnikov back to that top power play unit. So Blake has seen quite a bit of hit in terms of his production, but still a good shot volume upside player, just 10% rostered, only right wing eligible. So like I mentioned the last bit, if you watched it, keep in mind that looking through your roster throughout the week, because he has one position similar to Jack Quinn, you have to make sure that you are able to roster them on those off nights, because there are more than just 2 or 3 games on those off nights. 4 to 6 is what we're seeing right now. So I think with Jackson Blake, he'd be my last priority add from the forward group. Moving on to some of the defenseman streamers, we have a big list of defensemen for this week. We actually have a couple defensemen that have a decent amount of upside and defensemen that just overall produce peripheral wise. So my highest priority add this week and the highest ownership player is going to be Nikita Zadorov of the Boston Bruins, who just recently injured Austin Matthews in the game. Does not look good for Austin Matthews owners. I do have Matthews in 2 of my 6 leagues, but I digress. Nikita Zadorov, a very, very high hit volume upside. If you're in a league that doesn't count hits, I would not be looking to pick up Nikita Zadorov. I know majority of leagues do, but I am in one league that doesn't count hits. So keep that in mind when looking at Nikita Zadorov. Is just a sole hit play, a strong floor with his, I think he's up to 70 hits this season. Keandre Miller looks to have taken over that power play 1 duties. Gostisbehere has been skating and may return next week, so keep an eye on that. But Keandre Miller is playing massive minutes for the Carolina Hurricanes with Jacob Slavin on the IR right now. I love the upside from Keandre Miller. I've tried to own him and stash him in as many leagues as possible, especially with that power play 1 upside. He's under 50% roster, and there's not many power play 1 defensemen that are that low rostered right now. So definitely have a lot of interest in Keandre Miller this week. Just keep an eye on the return of Shane Gostisbehere. Sean Walker has almost taken over the #1 defenseman duty in Carolina, has been a peripheral beast. I've seen a couple comments asking about kind of what to do with Sean Walker. He's been strong this season. He's playing really good minutes, 23 plus per night right now, contributing to all the peripheral categories. He isn't on power play 1 anymore with Keandre Miller returning, so it does hurt his goal and assist upside, but still really strong peripheral upside from Sean Walker, and a lot of love for me for Sean Walker. Andrew Peeke here of the Boston Bruins, very, very good block volume. So again, leagues that value block. Samson, if you're watching this league, we had a talk through the Discord channel of your league that is very, very valuable to blocks. Some managers play in leagues where blocks are just as valuable as goals, or very close to the value of goals. So if you're in leagues that value blocks, you just need some assistance in those categories. You have a very hit and shot heavy team. Andrew Peeke seems like a very interesting ad, playing over 20 minutes per night right now. So we have the unfortunate news that Rasmus Dahlin has taken a leave of absence. It looks like Bowen Byram is getting the first opportunity on the top power play unit. The reason why I have him so low, he's a power play 1 defenseman, but go take a look at Bowen Byram's peripherals. They're very, very poor. They're very underwhelming. I wish both him and Power were better peripheral getting defensemen for the minutes they play, but they don't do a lot. So I would proceed with caution with Byram, but he does have power play 1 upside. So if you're looking for power play points, he's probably the second best option aside from Keandre Miller, contingent that Shane Gostisbehere does not play in the next week. Lastly, Matthias Samuelsson, very similar player to Sean Walker so far this season, playing really strong minutes. With Dahlin out, it's only going to get higher for him, and he has been very, very strong from a peripheral standpoint. So if you're looking for those shots, hits, blocks, Samuelsson has a very, very good upside in all 3 of those categories. Just don't really rely on him for goals and assists. So let's jump into some of the players that I think you need to be adding to your fantasy roster that are not streamers. So starting us off with Cole Perfetti of the Winnipeg Jets, one of my biggest sleepers going into this season. Unfortunately, did have a late injury and has kept him out until early this week. He is center, left wing, right wing eligible. Very, very good eligibility there. 40% rostered across leagues right now. So in the shallower league, if he's available, this is definitely a guy you want to add to your roster. So I obviously don't have stats for him for this season, but in 2024, averaged 15 minutes time on ice, 50 points, 15 of those points in the power play, 143 shots and 71 hits. Now he's moved up power play 1, playing top 6 minutes. His minutes in his most recent game, 1740, which is nearly a 3-minute increase from what we saw last season, a 2.5-minute increase from last season. So if he continues to play power play 1, which is exactly what we saw, they moved Iafallo off, put Cole Perfetti up there. The upside is going to be massive for the long term for Cole Perfetti, making him my highest priority add this week. Adam Fantilli of the Columbus Blue Jackets, we finally are seeing it, guys. He is up to power play 1 in the most recent game. They had about 6 minutes of power play opportunity. Fantilli was on for 5 minutes and 20 seconds of that average of that power play time on ice. So is he back? He could be. Is he a very good buy low? Definitely. He was dropped in my FPPL Division 1 league. I put a claim in for him. Unfortunately, didn't get him. A very underwhelming start to the season for what we expected out of Fantilli. A little bit closer to point per game was what we were hoping. 16:39 average time on ice, 11 points, 1 point on the power play, 40 shots on goal, 18 hits. So still shooting the puck at a strong rate. I was hoping to see about 3 shots per game. He's just below that right now. The hits, again, I want to see a little bit higher. But now with this opportunity of him being power play 1, he has 5 points in his last 3 games. Fantilli, I'm very surprised to see under 50% ownership, but soon we're going to start to see that climb, and this is a perfect time to add him to your roster. So Evander Kane, I think, is the only repeat player from last week, but I continue to see his ownership percentage not really scaling up for the production he's had early in the season. 17:52 average time on ice, 9 points this season, 2 points on the power play, but the great stats that I love to see, and this is Evander Kane-esque, this is where he makes his money for us in fantasy. 56 shots on goal and 34 hits this season. Over his last 5 games, he's averaging over 20 minutes time on ice with 25 shots on goal, including a 10 and an 8 shot on goal game. So he's firing the puck. He's playing huge minutes for the Vancouver Canucks right now, and he's continuing to be an ad for me until I see that ownership percentage over 50%. Lastly on this list, Matthew Wood of the Nashville Predators, right wing eligible, just 4% rostered in his rookie season. Now the minutes here, 12:56, very underwhelming, but in the most recent game, he had a hat trick and 17 minutes time on ice, was moved up to the top line, moved up to the top power play unit, has 10 points through his first 11 games, 5 of them on the power play, 28 shots on goal, and 8 hits, contributing very strong in the peripheral categories on top of being on the top line with Philip Forsberg and on the top power play unit. A very good ad at very low ownership right now. The final list of players, there are a couple interesting goalies on the board right now that should be added across most leagues. Starting us off with Kevin Lankinen of the Vancouver Canucks at just 12% roster. We have news this morning that Thatcher Demko is going to be out 2 to 3 plus weeks, and Lankinen will now take over as the number 1 goalie. He's been very underwhelming this season, but was extremely good in relief of the Thatcher Demko injury last season. So hopefully we start to see those numbers regress back to the mean. 9 games played this season, 3 wins, 238 saves, about 26 saves per game. 885 save percentage and a 357 goals against average. Him taking over as the number 1 spot purely for me is just going to be a volume play. So if you're in a points league, I would definitely look to Lankinen. If you're in a categories league, I would probably stay away for now. Moving on, Yaroslav Askarov on the San Jose Sharks, one of the most exciting teams in the league right now, with Macklin Celebrini leading the way and trying to make his case to be on the Canada Olympic roster. 10 games played so far this season, 5 wins, 283 saves, a sub 900 save percentage, and a 3+ goals against average is not good to see, but he's had 4 very strong starts in a row and is currently taking over as the number 1 goalie for the San Jose Sharks. In his last 4 starts, he's allowed just 6 goals, so a lot to love from Yaroslav Askarov right now. Daniel Vladar of the Philadelphia Flyers is the next goaltender on this list, 36% rostered, 9 games played this season, 6 wins, a 209 saves, a 917 save percentage, and a 218 goals against average. He's a top 10 goalie in category leagues right now with that 917 and 218 a stat line. He's taken over as the number 1 goalie over Samuel Ersson. Now, the only downside is the Flyers just don't produce much offense, but they are very good defensively. If I'm not mistaken, they're a bottom 5 offensive team and a top 5 defensive team. So defensively, it helps Vladar, but getting the wins may not be as good. But he does have 6 in his 9 games started, so there is a lot of upside with Daniel Vladar right now. Now, I want to try and pick and choose some better defensemen, but there just isn't a lot to go from right now. And I didn't want to include some of the defensemen I had last week. So let's go with Lovchinov from the Chicago Blackhawks at 18% rostered. Very concerning 15-minute, 34-second average time on ice, but does have 9 points, 5 points in the power play, 25 shots, 16 hits, and 11 blocks. The former second overall pick. I just wish we saw a little bit more minutes from him. Right now, since he's taken over power play 1 over Sam Renzel, he's skating about 17 to 20 per night, depending on the amount of special teams that they do have. but it is a power play 1 upside defenseman. Again, I just wish his peripherals were a bit better and he played a little bit more minutes, but he's power play 1 at 18% rostered, has 5 points over his last 4 games, and a lot of those have come on the power play. That will do it for the week 7 ads video. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next video.